Hello everyone again and welcome. So today we'll be looking at the different types of machine learning. Yesterday we did look at the definition of machine learning and the various applications. So the first type is called supervised learning. Supervised learning is that kind of machine learning type where algorithms are trained on labeled data. Labeled data here, what I mean here is that for every corresponding input, there is what? A correct output. Like the house price prediction that we did see yesterday, for every square foot of a house, there was a corresponding price for it. That is a good example of what? Supervised learning. So for supervised learning, it is like the goal here is to learn a mapping, which is to map elements from what? From the domain to the codomain, which is from what? From X to Y. So the equation that we're going to see more for supervised learning, especially a regression problem, is of the form y equals to f of x plus epsilon, where x are what? The futures, y is the target variable, and epsilon here is what? The error term. This error term is made up of three items, which is we call bias, variance, and the irreducible form. So most of the times in machine learning, what we are trying to do is to reduce this error as much as possible. And this error, as I did mention, is mostly made up of what? Bias and variance. Those are the two kind of things that when you are building a machine learning model, you are trying to reduce. Good examples of supervised learning types are what? Classification, where we are trying to predict categories. And these categories could be what? Spam or known what? Spam emails. So a good example of a model that has been trained, if we look at this figure at top right, where this is a machine, a classification problem where this algorithm is capable of separating these emails into what? Spam and non-spam, because here we just have two classes. One, we have put it as red, and the other one is what? Blue. So blue here could be spam, and then if blue is spam, and then the red here will be what? Non-spam. Another good example of supervised learning is regression, where we can be trying to predict what? House prices. So as seen on this other figure at the top left here, here we are trying to look at the relationship. So X here could be the size of that house, and Y here is what? The price of that house. And we can see here that as the size of the house increases, so does the price of that house. So as we move ahead, we are going to see what happens. This is what, if every size of house increases and the price increases, then we are going to call this what? A positive correlation. We are going to see how to calculate the correlation between the target variable and the input variable, which is what? The future, as we move on. So the second type of machine learning that we're going to see here is what? Unsupervised learning. For unsupervised learning, these are methods that try to find patterns or inherent structures in unlabeled data. So meaning that for unsupervised learning, for every corresponding input, there is no output for it. So that data is unlabeled. So what the algorithm tries to do is just to find patterns in that data and see how it can group them into different put them into different groups. Examples of unsupervised learning will start with clustering, and a good example of clustering is what? The K-means algorithm. We are going to see this as we move on. And then another example type is what? Dimensionality reduction. And a good example of dimensionality reduction is what? Principal component analysis. This will, we will see this especially when we have a very large data set. Most of these machine learning algorithms, they are not good with large data set. So we are going to use PCA a lot to try to reduce the dimension of that data before we can train that model. So this figure at top left here is a K-means algorithm that has been able to structure this data or put it into three different clusters or what group. These red dots here, as we move on, are called what? The means for each of those groups. The last type of machine learning algorithm is what? Reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning is that kind of machine learning algorithm where an agent learns to make decisions by interacting with the environment to maximize some cumulative reward. A good example here is, let's think about a robot. Let's say if you want a robot to be like a sales agent, what you do is that you try to train that robot to be able to do that task. From the start, that robot might not be able to be perfect, but one thing for sure is that the more it interacts with its environment, as seen like this agent, in an environment like this figure at top right, we can see the blue line here is the agent, which could be a robot, and the green here is what? The goal. And the goal here is what? For that robot to be able to learn to perform the task you are asking it to do. So guys, that is it for the lesson of today. Tomorrow we are going to be looking at some base knowledge in statistics. So keep following for more. You can subscribe on my YouTube channel as well as follow me on YouTube for most of these tips. Thank you so much, guys. Bye for now.